NTS. good morning and welcome along. You are in the Meltdown Zone. Ross Allen at the controls. Kicking off with one of my favourite tunes of the year, and we did mention it at the tail end of last week's show, but we were hoping it would happen, and he's in the studio today, the creator of that bit of music, Common Land, and the man behind the new album, Imagine This Is a High-Dimensional Space of All Possibilities. I had to write that down because I haven't quite got the intellect to retain that sort of...
It's a lot of words in a row.
It's a good title. I like it. But, look, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
But as I was saying to you off air, you know, every week I'm putting this show together and, you know, there's a lot of records that I get excited about, you know, and we play what we love and, you know, we try and be as on it as possible. And that one landed in my inbox, and as soon as I heard it, I was just like, I can't wait to get on air and play that. And we put it on as, you know, as the show started, it gives me goosebumps. I love it. So
that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. And the rest of the album has built on that. And it was interesting. You know, I think, you know, you've had a long career. I've heard of your name for a long time, and you know, a lot of it was sometimes in a different sphere to where I sort of operate in.
Yeah.
But I think probably since, and a lot of this I got from reading the sort of biographical material, but I think definitely from the last album was when I was actively like, oh my God, this is really good, you know, rhythmically, and you've got that deepness that I love, you know, which sort of, you know, comes from, I suppose, your original loves, which we will explore during this Foundation Music Special. But yeah, it's great to have you here. James Holden, nice one, man.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So look, we're gonna, you know, I think we'll talk about the new album and we'll play some more tracks from it.
Yeah.
But as we often like to do here, it's almost quite like to sort of chart how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. With
tunes that were sort of, you know, inspirational, life-changing. You've got some good stories about whatever. Do you know what I mean? You know.
I don't know how good my stories are, but some of the tunes are good.
Well, that's all right. It's a balance. It's that balance we were talking about. So
it was really fun to think about in terms of like telling a story of my life and thinking about where I've come from, knowing nothing, and then gradually, you know, learning and realising as I put these in order and these important tunes, it's actually quite a slow process of coming out of quite a narrow knowledge about music. Gradually, it sort of widens out. So it's fun to...
I think that's it. I think if you love music and it's obvious from what you do and the prolificness and the breadth of sound that you've got that you do, that it just happens for everyone. Do you know what I mean? And that's in a way why I love doing these shows, because, you know, there are those tunes that come along out of the blue, and, you know, with African music, I think I heard Cold Cut play Umu Sangara and Masulu, and it was on a tape, and I was always like, oh, I don't like that one. And then I was in the car, and then all of a sudden it just clicked, and it's now one of my all-time favourite tunes. You know what I mean?
Those
sort of moments where you're...
It's so weird when past you didn't like a thing that you now think is amazing. I feel the same about, like I used to, when I was a kid, I'd switch off Andy Kershaw's radio show on Radio 1.
Yeah.
It's just like, I can't, it's too much, too twiddly or something. Couldn't get into it. And now, a lot of the things he was playing are things that I'm looking for and, you know, seeking out actively.
I think it's just getting a sort of point of, it's an interesting one, it's like a sort of point of entry. And sometimes the door's closed, and other times you walk past it and you're a bit, or you hear it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what's that? Yeah. And then you sort of go into it, and then another world opens up. And I think a lot of what we often get in these shows is those moments where that happens, and you're like, oh, okay. And your ears acclimatise, and you enter this other sort of realm, which then affects everything else you do.
And you realise, like, everything's kind of the same. Like, there's something about what you currently like, and then the new thing you discover, there's some kind of link between them. Yeah. That, like, so we're going to start off with the first music I was into as a teenager, like dodgy British metal. That has some kind of, like... Because I think of my musical taste now as just being all about trance or, like, hypnotic things, repeating kind of... And Priest is trance music, like headbanging British 70s metal was a kind of sort of folky kind of trance activity. So seeing, like, when I liked this, I thought electronic music was awful.
Yeah.
You know, quite ignorant at that moment in my life. And then realising later they're just the same thing, just played on in different ways, kind of.
No, totally. I think the art of repetition goes across most sort of popular musics, doesn't it? You know, all music probably.
Or,
unless it's...
apart from classical music, which is why I can't get into
Yet.
Yeah, that's really, really wise. I'm still not that hopeful about that one.
No. Well, look, let's have a bit of this, and then we'll come back. Joined us, you're listening to The Meltdown, a Foundation Music special. Ross Allen Tatton to James Holden. We just had Judas Priest, Victims of Changes, and I think we were sort of chatting off air about the trance-like, hypnotic nature of the riffs.
Yeah, they really are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like it's proper. And I used to, as a teenager, my friend Bryn had given me this on tape, and I used to sit in my room just headbanging.
Yeah.
You know, really getting into it.
Locked in the groove.
Yeah, properly in a trance, like hypnotising myself. And listening to that now, I realise that although it's a completely different kind of music to what everything else that's in this playlist, everything else I've done, it's got so much in common with it. This like trancey pulse that's through it, the tension and release, the huge breakdown, double arpeggios, like the two lead guitarists of Judas Priest doing double arpeggios. You can kind of hear that in my work now. It's all about doing like double arpeggios.
Yeah. I think that's the thing I love about it, is that when you sort of put stuff under analysis, maybe something like this is a good thing to do that. I mean, I'm often sitting at home just sort of drifting off in some thought process about music and what it's doing and how it's working and whatever else, partly to do with my job as an A&R person and working on that side of things, why it works and the sort of and you mentioned, I saw one of the interviews that you were talking about functionality to it, and I really think that is quite an important part of music, which whether that is actually sort of, directly considered or just, and I think a lot of the time it isn't, it's just a byproduct. Do you know what I mean? I think people consume music with a functionality in mind. You're like, I want that mood, particularly now. Yeah. You put a record on, you don't really
Siri, play me something really sad.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And you want and I find that as an A&R person, I'm often saying to people, well, what do you want the record to do? Well, and then once they tell you what you want, then you can actually A&R the record.
See what you mean, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's a dance record. Well, you can't dance to it. Can you make it more dancey? Or, well, it's meant to be emotional. Can you make it more emotional? You know what I mean? Other than that, it's really, who are you to kind of critique what anyone else does? Yeah. I'm only there to on that tip. Do you know what I mean? So,
it's good to get it when you're making music. It's good to get it so that you're not thinking about the function. As in, like, I want it to function, so I'll do these cliche things to make it do that function. If you can trick yourself into, like, I'm not going to do any of those things, but my instincts are to make it function, then it kind of...
I think from your side of things, it's almost, I would assume, just this outpouring, do you know what I mean? This kind of cathartic thing of just like, right, I want to... Or could be at times, I don't know.
In the good times it is,
Do you know what I mean? It just pours out, and then I think... dependent upon where and what, and what the record is meant to be doing. Sometimes it might be nice to finesse it with something like, or someone to, do you know what I mean? I found that when I've worked with people that it's that you have I as an A&R person, you have a use at some point in the process sometimes where you can actually go, well, maybe if it's meant to do that, could it do, and that's sort of finessing it latterly,
That is, I mean, some of the things you've said, I remember sitting with my partner, Gemma, 20 years ago, playing her something I was working on, and her going, what are people meant to do during this bit of the record, James? And that was like a pivotal moment in my understanding of music, because I was just flouncing around with some strings for too long. It was, I needed to get down to it.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? It's the creative process and how these tunes that have just been in your sort of sphere of influence, do you know what I mean? In different... You can see a continuity and...
And so, it's been fun collecting this list of tunes and thinking about where I came from and like how each thing opened the door. The gap between these two... There's a big gap between the first two tunes. Yeah. But the moment where... So the Orbital tune was... I was doing GCSE music, and the GCSE music teacher, they had like an Atari and a couple of Rolands and stuff like that. So I was sequencing music, but I had no idea about electronic music. I just liked Judas Priest, basically, at that point, Queen and stuff like that. And he was like, well, he introduced me to the physics teacher who was into techno and trance and drum and bass and whatever. And he started feeding me tapes, and I wasn't listening to Priest anymore after that. It really just blew my mind hearing like Orbital. Having as a kid who'd learnt piano, and so I liked how music fitted together. Yeah. But I'd learnt it in like a sort of a lot of my friends, their dads had amazing record collection, or their mum and dad had amazing record collection, and my parents had like 5 records that weren't ever played, but my dad played the piano.
Yeah.
So that was I had this like a lot of musical input, but almost no contemporary culture at all coming in. So this process of understanding it was all filtered through, like, I quite like how chords work. I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
And then hearing like Orbital, it kind of made sense to me. It's like, this is like really interesting music, the way things go together, the way it builds up layers, the way it makes sort of shapes and moods and feelings and stuff. Kind of.
And you know, the sort of, you know, you saying it's kind of quite a jump, but obviously listening to sort of the organic nature of a Judas Priest record, you know, classic sort of guitar-y lineup, to hearing the sort of the synthetic nature, was it those, did those sounds have a sort of an impact? You know, were you just like, because I can quite remember quite clearly hearing the Human League, the Things That Dreams Are Made Of, on a Ski Sunday programme. It was the credit music.
Like credit music. I remember in the 80s like, hearing that kind of synth sound and just go, what is that? What is that noise? Like, how can I get it?
Your rudimentary understanding of music, even if I wasn't even thinking about it like that at the time, it was just like, I don't know, whether it be the Beatles or some of, you know, AC/DC or whatever the things I was exposed to and listening, and then you'd hear this stuff and it'd be so like other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, I was just, because it, you know, the way they're created is very different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the two sort of sets of sounds.
So you can kind of hear in Orbital that they played it, like things are changing continuously, and there's kind of there's a bit of life about how it all moves around in itself.
Yeah, this one's brilliant.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, love it. Well, look, we're going to whiz through. You've got one of my favourites lined up.
Yeah,
next.
This is such a like. So there's a guy called Gerald and Finley's Rainbow off that Black Secret Technology album, which just like it sounded like the most futuristic thing I've heard. And they reissued it a few years ago, so it's on Bandcamp now. Yeah. And just listening to it again, it still sounds. There's a weirdness to it, some weird, like, creepy kind of sounds, like sort of sick, stretching, and just odd. It sounds futuristic to me now, even though it's kind of a retro
Well, I must admit, I always struggled with the sort of, I mean, some of the early, the hardcore thing I never really got into, but once the time stretching came in, then all of a sudden, the breakbeats didn't sound so, because someone who'd been into funk, it was a bit like, what are they doing? They're making it sound all gerbily and Mickey Mousey. Yeah. And then when the time stretching came in, all of a sudden it was like, they're just really fast, and it sounds great. The drums sound right. Do you know what I mean to me?
What I mean, yeah.
But, should we have a bit of Finley's Rainbow?
Go on, hit it.
the background. Spooky and Stereo. And before that, a guy called Gerald Finley's Rainbow. 2 selections from my guest today, James Holden. Sounding good.
Yeah, it's nice hearing them.
Yeah, they sound brilliant.
So both of them I heard off ITV used to have a TV show like at 2 a.m. or something that was about electronic music.
Okay.
And would just have like random, if something was on a major label and they made a video or something. So it would be there was a video for this with just really bad footage of fairground rides. And then the Finley's Rainbow one, the video for that is on YouTube and it's amazing. It's him in a tube carriage dancing.
Oh, really?
And then like some CGI birds and stuff. It's like the most perfect video. It's really just pure and it goes with that kind of creepy, weird, otherworldly quality of the record and it really sucked me in. What is this mad world of he's dancing in virtual reality. It's amazing.
No, because that was what we were saying off air. Because I sort of turned around to James when the Spooky track was playing. I was like, I assume you were out raving at this point in clubs, and then you were like, no, I was at school.
Yeah, I was. That must have been when I was 17, 18 or something. It was. I lived quite a long way out of Leicester, so it was hard to get in to go to things, and everyone at school was going to these kind of commercial clubs where you had to look a certain way to get in, and I never got into any of that. It was embarrassing. And then eventually I discovered that there was a free party sound system doing events in Leicester. They were called Babel. Okay. And the first one we went to of that, and they had Aliens on the flyers, and they're playing really deep house and quite eclectic, a bit Balearic, but deep and heady. And it was just the doors opened. It was amazing. It was this is what a club is. It was such a perfect experience. Just this in some weird community centre or something, not in a commercial club, and everyone being super nice to everyone, really welcoming and accepting, and coming in as this teenager with no idea about the culture. I'd just seen the rave episode of Inspector Morse and stuff like that, ITV's whatever rave show, and had no idea really what I was going into. And this kind of egalitarian anarchist spirit of the place just really hit me as this is perfect.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that's good. That's a good way to describe it. It is that sort of, I suppose you do have those sort of eureka moments, and it's nice when it all comes together in a very positive light. Do you know what I mean? Not just the music, but the social scene around it, which I think was like that for a lot of people, I suppose. Whether it was, I think the sort of ecstasy obviously put a lot of people in a slightly different headspace where they might not have normally been like that, and they actually sort of realised you could be nice to everyone. Do you know what I mean? It was actually a better way to be. Yeah. But that's lovely. Yeah. That's lovely. I like it. And so from then on, once you went to that night, were you there? Was that did that become a bit of a?
It changed.
Chasing that. And getting more of that.
Because I was producing music on I had a basic PC. Not good enough to actually make music on, but I was making sort of tracker music and recording it to tape every day and then taking it into school and playing it to my mates. And from that point on, I started saturating the tape to make it sound more like the rave experience.
Oh, okay, so sort of decayed.
Yeah, and just heavy, trying to get that heaviness out of it. And really, just I was chasing that. It was hard. I had, had to wash dishes to pay for going out, so it was... You couldn't go out very much.
No, for sure. But that decay thing you're talking about, was that your memories of what the night sounded like?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to, because having no understanding and not having any gear, not knowing what a compressor was, or not having any analog stuff apart from his tape deck. Yeah. I didn't have any idea of how they got this big intense sound, and I was just working on headphones in my bedroom or something, just trying to find my way to that, and it took ages. It really took, but it was. The year after that, when I went to university, and I went in the computer room and was searching for music software, and suddenly realised, we've reached a point where I can download something, put it on 4 floppy disks, and go and work on my friend's computer, and that's how I made my first record. That
really?
That you could just the point where you could do it just on a computer was the point where the door opened for me, because that's all I had.
And what sort of year was that?
That would have been 98, 99.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That kind of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so your first single came out soon after that?
It was around, so at college there was a university radio station, and my partner was on it, and she came back she was on the rock show, And she came back one day and she'd been at the like station meeting, and she said, there's a guy at our college who's got house records out. You want to go and find him? And he was super reclusive, like really didn't speak to anyone. He was a really quiet guy. I sort of hunted him down and we started talking, and he hadn't really been making music while I was at university, didn't have any stuff, and I showed him this software and it blew his mind because he had a sampler back home or whatever. And we started doing stuff together, and then that kind of opened the door for me. He introduced me to the record label he was signed to, which was a bit of a bad gift because the guy was the dodgiest character you ever met. But that was the start. So,
no. I often think with the music business, sometimes a few things have to fall by the wayside, and you have to sort of, just to get started, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's obviously when you look back with hindsight, you're like, we could have done it this way or that way, but it's another doorway that sort of gets you in, and do you know what I mean? You know?
When you look back, you had no idea of what power you had or what you could do or how to achieve anything, and like you didn't know anyone and you didn't know what kind of thing would open a door. And looking back, it just seems really obvious. Oh, that was a bad step. But you have to make all those mistakes.
That's the thing. You have to, you're a bit like lambs to the slaughter, but you sort of have to go through it and hope. It would be nice if everyone was as sort of like, okay, come in.
If everyone was like a welcoming teacher, but it's not. Yeah, the world's not like that. But I'm grateful, in a weird way, I'm grateful for that creepy car salesman bastard. Because, like, I went through that. It was difficult, and we had to sort of fight to get away from him.
Yeah.
But then it kind of set me up with, well, there must be a better way. I would like to conduct my business in a better way. Okay, Maybe I'll start a label, and we can treat everyone nice and try and, just act respectfully to the world.
Yeah, exactly. For sure, and I get that.
And that defined my whole life, really, starting the label. So,
No, I think it's often the way, isn't it? Something bad happens, and then you think, well, how can we deal with it in a way that I would like to deal with it, and then pass that on to other people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's. I was reading something the other day about the whole tracks situation in Chicago, and you just sort of Marshall Jefferson and all those people. It's apparently not getting any money out of those records, kind of ever.
Yeah, and a guy called Gerald as well had the same thing happen.
It is quite shocking, but that's the music business, great place. But good for you. And so when did you set up Border Community?
So that was like
soon after.
It was like 2003 or something.
Okay.
It was So I'd left university, had a few records, done a little bit of. I kind of fell into DJing. People wanted me to I'd learnt to DJ when I was a student.
Was it Hypnotic that was the big? What was the big tune you had?
Horizons was the big one. It was like Pete Tong's Essential New Tune, or something. And just threw me into this world that I didn't really know. I knew about, like free parties and quite. Horizons was 145 BPM. I had no idea. Like, that's like 15 BPM faster than it should have been for the kind of music it was. Just had no clue what anyone was doing. I wasn't really, I just had a limited budget to buy records and not that many friends that were into it, and just kind of quite naive about everything at that point. Yeah. Which is good, I think.
No, totally.
It made it weird.
And so that ended up on the label of this, person that wasn't the nicest.
Yeah, and he licensed it to a major, and they spent some money on press, which catapulted my career off to a different kind of level.
And how did you find, and so then off the back of that, to promote it, you were then DJing, and is that how it kind of ran?
That's kind of how, like people were asking me to DJ, and I felt like, I'd always thought I'd like to do that, and I'd been learning to do it, but I wasn't, my only experience was like the back room of the trance night that my friends put on in Oxford. Yeah. And then suddenly been sort of thrown into this kind of, and then, and like doing it quite naively, I'd play like Boards of Canada into like really hard German techno records, because to me that would be a really beautiful transition, but to the people in the crowd, it took a long time for me to learn how to like take people with me.
Yeah, no. They're always fun, those ones, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it can be quite bleak, that kind of. You're like,
I remember
that doesn't work.
I had a gig like really early on in my career, and like half an hour into it, a girl in furry boots climbed up next to me. It was like, "You're rubbish. Let me take over."
Character building. Yeah. Character building. Yeah. Character building. Brilliant. Well, look, we've got... where are we going to go next?
I might change my mind, actually.
You're perfectly entitled to do that.
I really want to play this one.
Let's go.
Yeah.
London, Acid City. London, Acid City. London, Acid City.
Our time is now.
London, acid, city. London, acid, city. London, acid, city. London, acid, city. London, acid, city.
Our time is now. 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 Our time is now.
Proceed with the visual attack formation. Watch your space. Proceed with the visual attack formation. Watch your space.
mojo, hey. Go on to Atlanta City and be a winner. Go down to Atlanta City, come back fat as a rat. Why should you be a loser when you can be a winner? Yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
just tuned in, it's The Meltdown. Ross Allen at the controls. A Foundation Music special with James Holden. We have been in the hypnotic world of trance for a little bit.
Yeah, we have, haven't we?
Yeah, it's very hypnotic.
It was, wasn't it?
I enjoyed it. It was definitely sort of beyond, my normal realms.
Yeah.
But, I'm intrigued with the conversations we're having off mic about you hearing it, playing in your bedroom and those kind of things. Can we talk through some of the the bits that we play? We could go back to... where were we? After we had Lucky.
Oh, yeah, London Acid City.
Yeah, loved the vocal.
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it?
And the acid line, it was, hype. It was a good one.
Yeah, and quite banging and cheesy, and to me now, I guess, that it feels basic. But
at the time.
To a teenager who'd grown up in the country, who had 20 CDs and hadn't really heard very much, going to a community centre rave and hearing Chris Liberator DJ and hippies making friends with me.
Yeah.
And I remember coming out of this rave in Oxford, it was like my first year as a student. Coming out, my friend was like, James, you've got a cloud over your head. We've been dancing so hard, I was just evaporating my own weather system.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really
blew my mind.
Good memories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then after that was it KLF after that? Or did we play another one?
We played Push as well, Universal
Push,
Nation,
yes.
yeah. I just wanted to put one proper trance record in.
And what's and was that from a similar time? And
it was that was just something when I was learning to DJ in my bedroom, that was something I'd play over and over again, and but that whole, until there was a moment before I'd worn it out, where all that kind of trancey stuff just made me feel very emotional and excited. Yeah. And then it just stopped working on me after a while or something. I had to look for something else. But,
And where were you getting those records, and where were you finding them? And is that
I think maybe that one was from my physics teacher. The London Acid City I heard on that ITV TV show about clubs. And it appealed. Something about it grabbed me. The attitude of it or something. And then I was going to record shops at that point, but I felt like I couldn't really afford to... You know how record shops are like a sort of tiered system, and if you want the new hot stuff at the counter, they're quite expensive. Yeah. And then there's middle price and then rubbish in the bins. I'd just go through the bins looking for stuff that people had missed and kind of...
And there was always that sort of record shop attitude as well, oftentimes, isn't there? Sort of, you don't want that, you want the...
Yeah, exactly. And the one in Oxford was quite attitude-y. And
what was the shop in Oxford?
It's called Massive Records.
Oh, okay,
And then eventually... I made friends with someone who worked there, but then even still, I wasn't getting offered the best records. So it's good that you can just buy MP3s now without having to talk to a person.
I think that is the thing. Oftentimes people are sort of, they're sort of the way that Spotify or music gets recommended, but it does save you going through that sort of quite terrorising trial of some dickhead behind the counter of a record shop who thinks he's a little bit better than everybody else because he's in the shop. Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't need to be that way, does it?
No.
No. Then what do we have after that?
Do we have the KLF after that?
Then so then this is stuff that... Because what music you encounter is quite random, and I think although I've played lots of dance stuff up till now, lots of other stuff was going in at the same time, and I was really into Portishead and trip-hoppy stuff. Yeah. And then, the KLF chill-out tape, someone in the chat said that they used to fall asleep to it every night. Me and my partner would fall asleep to that every night.
Yeah. I suppose that's what it's for.
It's beautiful. Right? I love it so much. And then she introduced me to Mogwai after that. Yeah. And it kind of, in the same way that Judas Priest is the same kind of music as what I now like, Mogwai, particularly those first two albums, it's the same kind of music. It's this big, dynamic, emotional, repetitive, hypnotic kind of thing. And it really, and seeing them live doing that dynamic, performing that dynamic and kind of doing the loud choir and building the tension and stuff, it's they were the best live band I'd ever seen at that point, I think. Yeah.
And did that sort of come in at a time when you were, was that just complementing the ravey, trancey, nights out thing, or was there a shift taken place in your...
It was like that I could be into both things,
Yeah.
I think. I started to realise that, like, it's all good. Like, you can... I think when I was a student, I thought I liked everything apart from country music, and now I realise that was bigoted, and I like country music too.
I had the same revelation, actually. I was... I'll tell you about that off mic. That's another thing. But, yeah, no, it's interesting, isn't it? Again, it comes back to what we were saying at the top of the show, just that, you know, the way that those doors open and you...
Yeah.
All of a sudden you can access it and, you know, and...
Yeah. And then the last thing we played was another Mogwai one, the Surgeon remix of Mogwai First Ace, and we talked over the good bit, but...
sorry.
No, it's my fault too. But that was like... So I didn't really know anything about minimal music or anything, and I got that, which is just like 7 minutes of a drone, and then in the last minute it changes chord for a moment and then goes back.
Yeah.
And sort of just understanding that had boiled down the intensity of Mogwai and not really lost anything, even though it's just one noise doing a thing. It hasn't really lost anything out of the original Mogwai track that it's a remix of.
Yeah.
I met Surgeon recently and he told me they hated that remix. They wanted Techno. And I was
really?
like, that record like changed how I understood music, so I'm glad they didn't reject it entirely.
Yeah,
But that was my door to like drone, to like minimalism, to like just the effect of that, to listening to playing that drone record super loud and go, when it changes chord, just feeling your whole body kind of go, ugh.
And did he say why he did it that way?
He was talking about how...
Because you would imagine if you got a Surgeon mix, then that it would be that.
Sort of proper banging.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's always been a really interesting character. He's always made really interesting music around the side of what he's doing. And his Transcendence Orchestra stuff...
I don't know.
It's amazing.
Really?
Like, they're like a live band. There's two or three of them. And they play in robes and do like... It's like ambient, but really ritual and hypnotic. And it's amazing. Like, really,
I'll have to check it out.
They play in London quite often. So,
really?
Yeah.
Right.
Go.
Nice.
Definitely.
I will. Okay. So we've got another one, Closer Music.
Yeah, so we skip forward in time. I thought I could play something from a sort of progressive house era, but actually there's one track that I don't want to hear. Because I fell into this, you know, I wrote Horizons and kind of fell into this like trance progressive world, and everyone was, have you heard of Sasha and Digweed? I was like, actually no, but I best go and find out.
Yeah.
And kind of fell into that world and had to sort of fit into it and then find a way out of it, really, because it wasn't really aligned with what I was trying to do, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, so I had this bad label that I was signed to, and then I started my own label, and we felt like outsiders. I felt like this might work, it might not work. I might be, you know, looking for a job next year. We'll see. And put some things out. And they did all right with the English scene, but suddenly it went quite well in Germany. And we started getting, and not just Germany, but like France, Spain, like European techno DJs started picking up on the First Border Community things. Yeah. And I kind of, just like that door opened into that world. And they, like England never quite caught on in the same way as the rest of Europe did, and it just kind of, that was the next 10 years of my life, like just discovering that. But discovering Compact, I think it was maybe just before we started Border Community, and this like weird quality that it had, that it's like a bit arty.
That's the label from Cologne or Frankfurt?
Yeah, Cologne, yeah. And they had, there's something about them that was different to the English scene. Was very laddish and like, you know, boys music and kind of quite stuck in a
bit basic.
Yeah, exactly. Stuck in an aesthetic, really. And then like hearing the Compact stuff, it was a bit stripped back, but a bit kind of cool and arty and weird and like a bit gay, a bit, you know, like all kinds of different influences.
Are you talking about the sort of time when it was, you know, I would call it, quote unquote, that minimal techno thing? So was it the early 2000s?
But before it became called minimal. Because actually to me, minimal killed it. Like that was where it started to just go rubbish. And it was very soulful. Like this song is a song. It's a proper song. Okay. And it's atmospheric. And again, it's like the stuff from earlier on in this show of being like, I thought it was dance music, but it's all too soft for most clubs. Like it's this floaty kind of backroom dance music, which is really what I like.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
that sounds good. Well, let's give it a go.
I'm floating free, I'm floating free, I'm floating free.
the stars, between the stars, between the stars, between the stars, between the stars. There is no night or day, no night or day, no night or day, no night or day, no night. Planet E is far away, as far away, as far away, as far away. Where I am is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay. I won't return, I'm here to say, I'm here to say, I'm here to say, I'm here to say. Floating free. 1, 2, 3. Stars, between the stars, between the stars, between the stars, between the stars. There is no night or day, no night or day, no night or day, no night or day, no night or day. Planet E is far away, is far away, is far away, is far away. Where I am is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay. I won't return, I'm here to say, I'm here to say, I'm here to say, I'm here to say. Floating free. 1, 2, 3. Stars, between the 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 stars. There is no night or day, no night or day, no night or day, no night or day. Planet E is far away, is far away, is far away, is far away. Where I am is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay. I won't return, I'm here to say, I'm here to say. Floating free. 1, 2, 3. stars, between the stars, between the stars, between the stars, between the stars. There is no night or day, no night or day, no night or day, no night or day. Planet E is far away, is far away, is far away, is far away. Where I am is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay, is where I stay. I won't return, I'm here to say, I'm here to say.
شوف داك اللي فوطه دابا دايرين داكشي بحال شي باش تسمع صمت.
اوكي
اوكي لا واعد لا
It's the Meltdown, a Foundation Music special. James Holden in the studio, taking us through various incarnations of hypnotic music, the trance. We've gone to some great places. Sadly, rapidly running out of time, but I wanted to squeeze this one in because I think this was probably, I didn't even know it was by you, actually. It was only when I read that article and I was like, I've got that record. But, from reading, biographical stuff about you, and I think that article in the Quietus, which was, I could recommend. Is it Quietus?
Yeah.
Which I recommend. This sounded like quite a sort of moment for you.
Actually, both for last two, the Krautrock record before was a moment too. So that one my hairdresser gave me, and just the door opened, and oh my God, there's loads of old music which is exactly for me.
Yeah.
And suddenly, and then that was the album before the Inheritors album came out of discovering Krautrock and just kind of going deep and trying to make my own parallel version of it or something. And then the moment the Inheritors came out, I got an email, would you like to go to Morocco and work with Moroccan Gnawa musicians? And I was halfway through writing, I'm sorry, no, I've just put an album out, I'm really busy. And just thought, I should just Google and, search my music library and see if this has some resonance with me. And I realised I've got loads of tapes by Mahmoud Guinea because I've been searching. When I was DJing, I was always looking for something interesting to play. That was the whole... And my favourite part of DJing was when you could play a Mali and Hunters record into a techno record and people wouldn't notice that you'd switch between the two
brilliant.
things. It's the greatest. I used to just feel a little bit smug that I'd sneaked that up on them. Or just happy that I'd showed that these are the same thing, that there's something connected. And so I realised, I've got loads of Mahmoud Guinea records and I really like, listening to it, this is amazing, incredible music. You end up with loads of stuff off blogs and a big music collection, and some things you haven't gone really deep into. Yeah. And I just sat there for a few days listening to Gnawa and it unfolded from being this kind of rattly, confusing thing into being wow, this is really trancey, it works for me. So I went ahead and did it, and we went to Morocco, me and Floating Points and Vessel and Biosphere, and we all had the same experience of just I think of myself as a musician, here I am, here's some other musicians, oh shit, I can't do anything. My stupid machines that won't play in time with them, won't play in tune with them. I pulled all that, so the first day was brutal, I had a little sort of Gnawa rhythm on the modular doing and they were just doing better rhythms, and mine couldn't stay in time with them anyway, and it was just humiliating. I felt so embarrassed. Stayed up all night, pulling wires out, repatching, just trying to make it so that my modular was a proper instrument, so when they came back the next day,
you could react.
I could actually react, yeah exactly, and play with them. And it just happened. It was what you hear in the record it starts out with me figuring out the notes quietly in the background and then Mahmoud Guinea hearing that I'd kind of found a place in it, and then him reshaping the whole arrangement around that and he orchestrates a trance breakdown in the middle of it, a big, kills the percussion, builds it up, builds the tension in the same way of the Push record from before or something. And then he nods a lot of his percussion his sons or family members or whatever, and he kind of gave them the nod to come in at the point where if this was Space Ibiza, they'd be putting the ice cannons on or whatever. Felt really, and just that changed everything for me. That made me feel like I was a real musician finally, that I could go and play with people who are actually good and not be entirely humiliated by the experience.
So after that, is that when you sort of were the band on the previous record?
So that was the Inheritors record, I just kind of got my friend Etienne plays sax on it, but I'd sent it to him and he sent the sax back. And then the next record, it was this kind of, after this collaboration, I collaborated with a few people and kind of just started getting this idea that what I would do, maybe we need to play the Don Cherry. I mean, the Don Cherry Next is kind of one of the windows into it, that my friend Luke played me this Don Cherry thing, and we watched, on YouTube, there's a thing called Don Cherry's Organic Music Theatre. It's a black and white concert film. And they're sitting around, kind of his family are playing instruments, his kids are playing. Eagle Eye Cherry does a little dance, his wife's there playing something, and it's this kind of across the whole world of music. It's amazing, just really hearing that. And I started thinking all this music, the Gnawa stuff is trance fully, and the way it works on people is hypnotic and trance. And then the spiritual jazz stuff is also trance.
Yeah.
So I thought, why don't I form a spiritual jazz band and play actual trance with them, put a synth in a spiritual jazz band.
Oh, brilliant. I'm glad you did, because that's why you're here now. And I've loved those last two records.
Cool.
You know?
I'm glad, yeah.
No, it's wicked. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I mean, I'm just looking at the time, and sadly, as it always happens, we're rapidly running out of time. But maybe when we post the show, we'll play the other tune that you want to play, which is the Pharoah Sanders.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've got to go because someone's sort of lined up, and we want to have a little blast of Don Cherry. But it's been brilliant today. I've loved it. Thank you so much for coming in. Cool. I've loved it. Loved the chat, and I love the records, and I need to come and see you live. And keep on keeping on. I love it.
Thanks,
James.
Cheers.
Cool, man.
There must be a fourth way to flow with time. This is the organic way. This is the way of the organic society to flow with time. How does it feel to love Jesus? How does it feel to love Buddha? How does it feel to love Allah? All I know is how it feels to love Krishna. Whatever I wanna. How does it feel to love Jehovah? How does it feel to sing Rama? Hare 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 Hare